Hi, my name is Becky Jennings, and this is the Responsible Parenting Podcast. I give you the transformational tools to stop reacting to your children in the moment and start responding with intention. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Responsible Parenting. My name is Becky. I am your host, and today we are talking about whether or not we should allow or not allow our children to go on social media. And this is in response to an email I received from a listener. And I wanted to read it real fast so that you can get a sense of what she was asking. She said, "Hi, Becky. I wanted to write in because I'm getting so worried about social media as my kids grow older, and I have no idea how to navigate it. As a mom of three, ages 9, 12, and 14, I find myself at a loss when it comes to navigating this digital landscape. My oldest, who is about to graduate eighth grade, is starting to express a desire to get on social media as she keeps talking about how all of her friends have it. However, I can't help but worry about the unrealistic standards it sets and how that could affect her development and self identity. Am I crazy for not wanting her to get on Instagram and TikTok? I want her to grow up like an average kid and not miss out on the things her friends are doing. I just wish social media wasn't so toxic, especially for girls. Thanks." Whew. This is such a tricky and sticky topic. And I wanted to say thank you so much for writing in. And I also wanted to see if I could help in any way to help you navigate this very sensitive subject. So it sounds for me like right off the bat that this mom has a deep desire to protect her children. And she really doesn't want them to feel resentment, to feel left out, but she really craves for them to have a safe and healthy childhood. And she also wants them to feel that connection with their friends. I can tell that she has a deep desire to have an empowered conversation with her kids so that there doesn't build this frustration and resentment between both of them, between her being frustrated with their requests and them, her denial possibly of them being able to use social media. So I don't think it's crazy whatsoever to be concerned about social media. Studies have shown that there has been quite a negative impact with adolescence, and there is a lot to navigate on these sites. But I think it really does come down to having a very strong and empowered conversation and approaching the conversation without assumptions and without judgments about the reasons why she doesn't want them on social media and why they want to be on social media. I do believe that there could be a trusted balance because it's very easy for us as parents to rocket launch and fast forward to the worst case scenario, all the potential bad outcomes, the cyberbullying, the self-esteem issues, the unrealistic expectations about bodies and image. And that can be a very, very scary landscape. You know, the influences of strangers that we don't know. It's a very interesting space out there. So I understand those really deep fears. I also believe that there could be ways to engage in social media safely. So I'd be very curious if conversations had already been happening and what those conversations looked like. If they were able to speak about it or it ended up in a huge battle and a huge fight. So I would be very curious about that to see how those conversations were navigated. But a few ideas that came to mind in the meantime is to come to the table with very neutral emotions, which is very hard to do because this is such an enormous topic and the ramifications, the future projections of fear are really big in our eyes as parents. So, what I would do is I would have your daughter come up with 5 to 10 reasons why they really want to be on social media. And then I would have 5 to 10 reasons as a parent why I'm concerned. Now, why I find this to be helpful is that it's not just a flash reaction to things, I find that maybe when you want to purchase a big item or when you're really excited about something, it can be like, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. But it can seem like, oh, this is coming out of nowhere. And we haven't thought this through, right? We're making a decision based off impulse, we're reacting based off fears and impulses, and we haven't thought it all the way through and come up with really intentional reasons as to why. So these 5 to 10 reasons and points I find will be so helpful because you can break them down and discuss them and understand what the needs are beneath if they're not just fully stated. And you'll have a deeper understanding as to the desire of why they want to be on social media. Also, you'll be able to come from a very genuine, calm place because you'll have been able to write your list of concerns in a non reactive state. So your child will probably be more open to listening because you're not in this really harsh reactive space. You can both set aside a time to have this conversation and come prepared to share your feelings on it. Whether you want to swap these 5 to 10 points ahead of time, that's fine. But just making sure that you're really focused on intentionally hearing each other and having this conversation versus knowing that it could probably escalate. You're kind of putting in fail safes for yourself. One of the greatest gifts that we can give our children is to listen to them without our preconceived judgments. So, really, truly listening to your child while they share their desires is such a gift. I think they often assume that we are going to respond in a certain way, and probably because we have typically in the past. And so, when we can come to them and listen and hear them and do active and reflective listening back to them, letting you know that you have fully heard their point and you're trying to deeply understand is such a gift. And I think will benefit this conversation in a big way. With social media, a big draw to it is a deeper desire I feel underneath of connectedness, connecting to their friends. You mentioned that your daughter's friends are doing it. She might feel left out and you don't want that for her. You mentioned that your daughter's friends are on social media and you don't want her to feel left out and she doesn't want to feel left out. Oftentimes, so that connection piece, social media is also being visible to their friends, to not be left out. And social media is a tool to get those needs met. So if that is one of the deeper desires, how do we meet those needs without social media? Is there a way that you can organize more events with her friends? Are there different activities she can do in school that allows her to feel more visible and more seen without being on social media? And I think the other thing that could be done here is a trial period where there's set up rules and set up checks and balances where she gets to try a few things and test them out. But when we start to see behavioral shifts or when we start to see our dynamic shifting and we have mapped them out with signs of, XYZ signs, like you're snipping at me more, your grades are dropping, you're not participating in the family as much. And those are already agreed upon terms. When we see those shifts, then it's time to take a break and pull back. But I do think it's important to come up with those parameters together so there is a joint consensus and it's not just this dictator rule that you're putting on and they have to abide by it. They also take a lot of ownership and the responsibility of that. I think it's very important for your child to understand that it's not just they just don't have free access and free reign and they can do whatever they want on it. There are parameters and rules set up. And when we start to see that they actually aren't responsible enough to follow these guidelines that we've agreed upon together, then we are going to have to take a break and pull back and figure out a new set of rules that you guys would come up with together. You can also spend time with them on social media. you can be sitting with them and experiencing it with them so that you can kind of have, in the beginning, a more bird's eye view of what's happening, and they can explain to you what's going on so that you have a more realistic understanding of what they're doing on social media. There's a lot more other things to talk about social media. If you have further questions, please definitely feel free to reach out. And I will be talking about social media more often. But I think when we come to the table, not steeped in fear, that we come with curiosity to understand their deep desire to be on social media and what that could look like. And then as a team, we come up with a collaborative set of guidelines and rules that need to be followed and adhered to. And if they're not, then we already have come up with what those next steps are going to look like. So when we don't follow through with this, then I'm actually going to have to do this next. And they're already agreed upon. So there's no real huge need for that reactivity and that fight afterwards. I hope this helps. I look forward to speaking to you more. Until the next episode, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Response Able Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share this episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough, you are capable, you've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together. This podcast was produced by Kim Kelty and myself, Becky Jennings, and edited by the Kelty Method Branding and Podcasting.